So I just filmed this video about my coma, about being in a coma for 30 days, and it was very hard to do, but I'm so glad I finally did it. I've been wanting to do this video for so long, and it's been really important to me to share this with you guys because I've received so much support and kindness from so many people, and I've been asked by so many people about what happened and why I was in a coma and about the whole thing. So it was very, very difficult for me to film this, but I'm really glad I did it. Are we recording? Okay. Yep. Okay. All right. I just want to say one more thing before we get into this video. I want to remind you that if you are going through something like this, if you're sick, whatever it is that you're going through, I want to remind you that you have no idea how strong you are and that you can, whatever it is, you can get through this. So please do not give up because it's worth it and you really can do it. No matter how cheesy it sounds, it's true. Like, you can do whatever you want to do. So I just wanted to say that before getting into this video. Okay, hey guys. Today I'm gonna be making a video. I've been wanting to make this video probably ever since I got out of the hospital, but I didn't really have any answers. I didn't really have anything to say, I guess, because my doctors didn't really have an answer for me. I guess I don't really know where to start, so I'm just gonna kind of jump in. This is so much harder than I thought it was gonna be. Prior to what happened, I had not been feeling well for a pretty long time. I would say maybe, if I had to put a number on it, maybe like 6 months, probably a little bit longer than that. Just a lot of weird things were happening that are kind of hard to explain. I started getting a lot of headaches, and I just didn't feel well overall, and it was a feeling that I had never felt. That's really hard to explain. If I had to put it into words, I would say it was like who I am as a person and like my whole personality and everything about me. It was like it got up and like left my body. It was the weirdest thing, and for a while I just thought I had like some really bad cold or like a flu or something, but I wasn't throwing up. It wasn't typical symptoms of being sick. It was just something that I knew was very wrong and I didn't know how to explain it to anybody. And this makes a lot of sense now because when I was in the hospital, one of my doctors did tell me that I had been sick for a long time before I knew I was sick. So like throughout that 6 months, I was getting worse and worse. I was feeling worse. I didn't really want to be around people as much. I just didn't feel good most of the time. So it really started progressing a couple of weeks prior to my first seizure. There's absolutely no history of seizures in my family, so that was really weird. And so my first seizure was January 1st, so technically New Year's Eve of 2018. So the day before, I was at work. We had some kind of like a New Year's brunch, like prior to New Year's, because for some reason we weren't going to do it New Year's Eve. I don't even know why. It's hard to talk about this because I can't remember a lot of what happened. So the day before my first seizure, I was at work, and so like in the past, when I would get migraines, I would get something that I guess is referred to as like halo vision. It's like a light, like you see like an aura kind of, and it's like kind of twinkly. I don't really know how you explain it. And when I was at work, I started to get this like orb vision, and it was at the end of my shift, and I knew I was going to get a migraine. So, when I get migraines, they are so terrible. I know I'm not able to function, so I asked one of my coworkers to drive me home, and I was feeling very unwell. I never ended up actually getting the migraine, but I had the vision, the orb vision or whatever. And so I went home. So we fast forward to New Year's Eve. I did not go out that night because I hadn't been feeling well. My friends were inviting me out, and I just said, like, I just don't want to. I don't want to go out. I don't feel good. So I stayed at home, and I was just, like, hanging out on the couch watching TV. And I don't really remember any of this, but this is what my aunt told me. I was living with my aunt at the time, and she was working at a restaurant too. So she worked that night. So she came home, and again, I don't remember this, but and this is I lived in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, so it was winter time. It was really snowy and cold and everything. She got home, and the front door was open, and our dog, we have a big golden retriever, our dog was running down the street. And she came home and she walked in and she looked at me and she said, "What's going on? Why is the door open?" And I was so confused. I just said, "I don't know what's happening, and I don't know why I don't know what's happening." And she looked at me and she said, like, "What do you mean? What's going on?" And I just kept saying, "I don't know what's going on." And we now know that prior to her getting home, I had a seizure. And when you have a seizure, you don't remember it, because I didn't know how I got home, what was going on, how I got on the couch. I didn't know anything. I was so confused. And she said, okay, I'm gonna go get the dog, and I'm whatever. And so she got the dog, she got back inside, and that's the last thing that I remember, and I don't even really remember that. If it weren't for my family telling me that happened, I probably wouldn't even know that happened. So apparently right after that, I went into another seizure. I started having another seizure, and I'm so thankful she was at home, because who knows what could have happened if she wasn't there. So immediately she called 911. So the ambulance came to my house and picked me up. And where I live, there's no neurologists, so the ambulance had to take me 2 hours away from where I lived. So they brought me there, and I continued to have seizures, I guess. And I honestly don't know how many seizures I had. I had a lot. My boyfriend was actually in southern Michigan, or downstate Michigan at the time, and my family called him, and he left whatever he was doing, and he just drove right up to where I was in the hospital, which was like 8 hours north of where he was at the time. And he didn't even hesitate. He just like dropped what he was doing and drove to the hospital to see me. And they could not figure out why I was having seizures, so they ended up doing like a sleep study on me, where I had to stay up for 24 hours, and they did that to see if that would induce seizures. And it did. So Avery stayed up with me for those 24 hours. He had to make sure I was awake. My understanding is after being awake for 24 hours, I had 17 seizures in 8 hours, and countless. Those were external seizures, and then they have no idea how many internal seizures I had during that time as well. So after the 24 hours of being awake and having all those seizures, I fell asleep, and apparently I slept for 36 hours, I believe. They were considering doing brain surgery, and I'm pretty thankful they didn't do that, basically. So they were able to put me on a plane. It wasn't like a helicopter or anything. They put me on a small plane, and it was me, a pilot, and a team of doctors on a plane, and they flew me to the University of Madison Children's Hospital, and that's where I received all of my care, and I am so thankful. They took the best care of me. I could not ask for anything better, so I can never thank them enough. Everybody, every nurse, every doctor, every single person who I interacted with in that hospital was incredible, and I will forever be so grateful for them. So I was in Michigan, and I was just having seizure after seizure after seizure, and they would not stop, and they were giving me all these medications, and no matter what they gave me, I would not stop having seizures. And my family was there, my aunt, my grandparents, and Avery, my boyfriend, was there. I'm not really sure who else might have been there. So I kept having these seizures, and the doctor walked into the waiting room with my family, and he said, okay, we can't get her seizures to stop. She currently has no brain damage, no organ damage, so we're going to have to induce her into a coma. And my family just said, okay. My grandparents, I think they were kind of scared, but my family just said, okay, when are you going to do it? And my doctor said, we're prepping her right now. So my family came in. I, of course, had no idea what was happening. Doctors don't tell you, like, hey, we're gonna induce you into a coma. They don't do that. So they didn't tell me what was happening, and of course, I don't remember anything at all. They probably just gave me an IV, and my family came in, I guess, and they just told me they loved me, and that's when they put me under. And at the time, they just thought, like, she's going to be fine. We're gonna have to just put her under for a couple of days. We're just gonna figure out what's causing the seizures, and we're going to stop the seizures, and then we'll wake her up, and it'll be fine. We just need to put her under for now so that we can figure this out and make it stop. That is not what happened at all. They put me under, and they flew me to the University of Madison Children's Hospital, and that's, I guess, when it got really crazy. So I underwent apparently every test under the sun, and they could not find anything, and the doctors told my family that they had never ordered so many tests for one person. I did not have a single cancer cell in my body. I didn't have any tumors. I didn't have any type of illness, no viruses, absolutely nothing. And throughout my coma, I was in the coma for exactly 30 days. They tried to wake me up several times, and every single time they tried to wake me up, I started having seizures every time. And so they would have to put me under. And then I guess my understanding is they would try different medications on me, and nothing was really helping. And then eventually, at some point, they started giving me phenobarbital, and they also started giving me Kineret. Okay, so day 30, I guess, they tried waking me up, and Avery was there, my boyfriend, and I guess, of course, I don't remember any of this. It's funny because people ask me all the time, like, how was it when you woke up? Like, what happened? What was it like being in a coma, you know? And I don't remember anything, and, like, you know, it's very dramatized in, like, Hollywood and everything, like, what it's like to come out of a coma. You don't remember anything. You are so highly medicated. Anyone who says they remember, I mean, maybe some people remember, but you were extremely medicated. And in my case, since I had been under so deep and under for such a long time, I don't remember anything. But I love that Avery was there and he was able to tell me what happened, because apparently he was right there, and I opened my eyes, and when I saw him, I smiled, and that makes me so happy, because there was a chance that I wasn't going to know anything, and I wasn't going to remember anything. I wasn't going to know who I was, or remember anybody in my life, or any of my life for that matter. And prior to me waking up, my doctors had actually told my family, they were telling my family that I was not going to make it. So I woke up and I saw Avery, and I smiled, and he couldn't believe it. He was so excited, and he said, I think he said, you know you're still beautiful, right? And I guess I started laughing. After you're in a coma for 30 days, like, being in a coma is very bad for you. It's not good for you. I lost 30 pounds, and I went in to the hospital. I was already pretty thin. Like, I'm 5'9", and I was around 120 pounds, so I was already pretty thin. But I lost about 30 pounds. I was around 90 pounds and 5'9", so I was very, very thin. So what I'm trying to say is I didn't really have any muscles. So, like, it was amazing, I guess, that I could smile. And he started yelling to all the doctors, oh my god, she's awake, she's awake. And then they came over, and he kind of said, like, I made him look stupid because I wouldn't do anything for the doctors, but I would do things for Avery. And they were like, they didn't believe him at all. They were just kind of like, whatever, she's not awake, there's no way. But I did wake up. Some of my first memories are in the hospital. I remember Avery was always there. He stayed with me. He lived with me in the hospital. And my aunt came and visited me. And I will always be so grateful for that, because if it weren't for my family and everyone who was there, I don't know what I would do. I don't know how I would have gotten through it. And my doctors and nurses and every single person I worked with was so, so amazing. was hard to look at myself. I didn't look at myself for a long time in the mirror because I was, like I said, around 90 pounds. So I made a point to not look at myself. Even my nurses, they would not allow any mirrors in the room because my family had printed all these photos of me and framed them, of me and my family and my friends. They were all in my room, all those photos of me. So for my nurses and my doctors to see what I really normally looked like compared to what I looked like coming out of a coma, I did have a mirror eventually, but I wouldn't let myself look at it because I knew I wouldn't be able to handle it. And then eventually I did look in the mirror, and it wasn't as bad as I thought. I didn't look in the mirror until I think I had gained about 12 pounds. And it was hard to look at, but I didn't think that I would be me anymore. And I was still me, and I knew who I was. I looked myself in the mirror and I was like, all right, I'm still me. So from that point, all my doctors were extremely amazed that I even woke up. And they told my family that at best, I would be able to walk and talk in between 1 and 2 years. I would be able to walk and talk again.